Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. I was watching to see if you were ready or not, and you were not ready. So I thought, yeah, that's the best way to start the pod when James is not ready.
What's your name?
My name's Suj.
My name's James.
I thought you might have forgotten there for a second.
I'm busy. What, my name or your name?
My name. That's why you asked me.
Why
you
would
said,
I
what's your name?
Oh, just offering a reminder to the people, right?
What is happening, listeners and viewers, if you're on the old YouTube? It's the end of another game week. Game week 13, 14, 13.
Yeah, I think most of us knew / thought that this would be a difficult weekend. I think for the majority that's proven to be the case. There was a lot of conflicting matchups, weren't they? Brentford v Arsenal players, Mbumo versus your Arsenal defence, Tottenham versus Villa, City-Liverpool, Chelsea at Newcastle. There was a lot of conflicting matchups for FPL managers this week, which I think always led to the suspicion it would be a difficult week.
Yeah, I ended up on 38 points once Palmer comes off the bench. From looking down like the Correspondence League and whatever, everyone's in the 40s, give or take. One or two have crept into the 50s, but generally it's like everyone's between 42 and 46. So I am one return behind par for where I would want to be. I didn't actually check what my safety score would have been on livefpl.net to maintain rank. I was definitely below that because I've had a dip in rank. But other than Haaland's captaincy, which lots of people had, Watkins' goal, which lots of people had, and a Arsenal defensive clean sheet, I didn't have anything else, James, this week.
So I'm guessing the difference between me and you, therefore, would be Bukayo Saka's assist late on, which was a 5-point assist because it led to a 2-point bonus as well. So 43 it will be for me once Mbumo comes into the team. I presume we're both...
Ooh, safety for me is 48, so it's 10 points off safety.
Yeah, I mean, I had a red, yeah. So, and obviously live will already factor in, obviously, the points off the bench. I take it was Bowen you lost from your 11.
It was Bowen.
Yeah,
I
okay.
lost.
So
yeah, I had nothing. Areola, 3-pointer. We'll talk about that game. Kashi, obviously, is a failie. Gabriel is irrelevant because if you don't own Gabriel, you own Saliba. I think most people have a Arsenal defender.
No, not everyone. Definitely not everyone.
Majority, definitely live. And then Trippier, Son, Diaby, Foden, Bowen, Alvarez. Nothing between them at all. I think it could have been quite different. They all could have done a little bit better, but I would say there is not a lot of joy in the game right now. I sold Mitoma for Cole Palmer. I was going to move on Mitoma at some point anyway. I wanted to get Palmer in to start thinning out my bench a little bit. It was a case of, do I sacrifice Foden now? But with Mitoma's injury, it just made sense that he's the one that I would just sacrifice. So I didn't have any long-term intentions with Mitoma, so I moved him on for Palmer, who just stayed on my bench, but did come on for the 2-pointer. What did Mitoma score? He didn't even play, did he?
No, of course not. No.
So yeah, I mean, that was it. And then I've now got to figure out what I'm going to do. But like I said, there's just no joy in the game at the moment.
Stop playing then.
It's not about that. It's not about stopping playing for when there's no joy in the game. I think it's probably mildly symptomatic of us making content every week and what have you. But you end up falling into the default transfer, if you know what I mean. It's like, well, this is the obvious, sensible decision to make.
Is it? So what transfer did you make last week?
I went from Mitoma to Palmer.
Okay.
But it wasn't like...
Well, I went from Mitoma to Mbumo, so it's not the same thing, is it?
It's not, but then everyone's team's different. But you weigh out for your own team what the default sensible choice would be. And so when I say there's no joy in the game, I feel like it's very much... or maybe I have been playing the percentages more than playing for fun, which is...
Then play for fun, mate.
The optimal, you know how you figure out what's the most sensible move and the optimal move. Quite often we've sat here and had discussions with, this is probably the best transfer for you. You know, you'll come and look at it, and we do the differential show on a Friday, and it's like, this is probably the right transfer to make is probably this one. But so often they're just like...
So
do you know what?
But you've already explained why you bought Palmer, right? You bought Palmer for thinning out of the squad.
Yeah, but do you know who I wanted to buy? Do you know who I feel like Palmer is who I should have bought. Souček was who I wanted to buy.
So why didn't you?
Because I did the sensible thing, James. Sometimes you do the sensible thing.
Souček was playing Burnley and Palmer's playing Newcastle.
Yeah, but longer term. But I still think Souček up until now and Christmas could easily keep pace with Palmer. It was just a case of I've already got Bowen, so do I want double West Ham? And I've got Areola, so that's actually triple West Ham. Do I want to do that?
No.
Well, depends who. I think is actually more to the point because Souček's sitting there at 4.9, so it's a very different decision.
It's a very reasonable get.
I do feel like I have been making the right decision, not the one I want to necessarily. And like you said, I do think this is a moment where I need to reflect and think, like, if it's that dull and that boring, because the entire weekend I didn't look at my FPL team. Like, I knew what the football results were. I watched a few of the games and stuff. I didn't even need to check my team because I knew it was bad.
Well, you also know what returns are coming in. You go, okay, Haaland scored. Okay, cool.
But at some point you would look and say, okay, is there any bonus in there? And what is the overall total and whatever? I didn't even know. I just knew it was going to be rubbish, whatever it was. It was only until this morning when I logged in that I looked at it and thought...
But did you also feel like you were getting battered at the same time?
No,
exactly.
Because I didn't know what anyone else was doing, to be honest with you. So I didn't sit there.
But you probably weren't looking at the week and go, oh, he scored and I haven't got him. Do you know what I mean? Like, you haven't got Trippier. You got Trippier or you have? Yeah, you have got Trippier. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't pay a lot of attention elsewhere, if I'm honest with you. But then, I think it was just that. And I think a lot of people get that fatigue. I listen to the above average boys, and obviously Baker's like sitting down in the 4 millions at the moment, and it seems to be one bad bit of luck after another continuously. That is just, I don't know. I think their show is called Are We Cursed or Is It Cursed or something like that yesterday. It does feel like it sometimes. I do think that I feel like at this point I want to have a bit of fun more than trying to make the optimum choices.
So do you know what you need? Truthfully, make it a bit more fun. There's a bit of goal setting.
I'm a big advocate of goal setting.
Honestly, because you've been hovering kind of in between sort of 1 million, 2 million for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
Start setting some goals. Where am I going to be on New Year's Day? Start setting some goals.
Again, I see where you're going with that. But I think what I want to do is start having some fun with some players I want to own. So, for example, right, I want to get to Sonny. I want to get to Salah, which means selling.
Is having fun or just doing what everyone else is doing?
No, having Salah is fun because he's the second best player in the game.
Okay,
and I want to have.
I think he's the first. I think he's the first at the moment. By the way, best player in the game.
I would go. I was looking at it, thinking, right, Saka, Salah, Haaland as a 3 to just leave. And then you can piss about with all the rest of the players within the team. You know, if you've got a core that's solid, you can have fun around the edges. When you're messing around with the core a little bit more, it becomes a little bit more dangerous. I don't have Salah or Saka, and they've been so consistent throughout the entire season. So I feel like I want to get to Salah and Saka, which will mean moving on Son, although I don't have enough money to do that yet. Foden needs to go in the coming weeks. So look, I've still got... Souček on my list. There's a cheap player that can come in. But then I quite like the idea of Anthony Gordon. Now, I wonder what Gordon's ownership is up to. 12.8%, which is quite low for the 6th, 7th.
It'll be, I think he went up overnight to 5.9.
He is 5.9.
Every chance to be 6 by the weekend because Newcastle's fixture run is easing. It's looking good.
But then having a midfield which has the likes of Palmer, Souček and Gordon seems particularly mad. Salah and Saka alongside.
And then what, 2 up front?
No, still up. Watkins, Alvarez, Haaland still, and rotate around. I suppose I'm not sure what direction I'm taking it in. I know Salah is a focus because he hurts regularly.
What you got in the bank?
Right now I've got 1.7.
1.7? So...
I'd be 1.8 shy of Salah. I could move Trippier on. I'm thinking about downgrading cash. There's places to get some money.
Yeah, I looked at one. You'll hear me discuss this on Clash of Correspondence tomorrow because I was chatting with Mark and Sean to preview the Forest Everton game, which will be out for you tomorrow. and I threw a -4, which I can do, is Son to Salah, Watkins to Chris Wood, exact money. But it's the same argument I keep having. I'm putting Salah in. I'm taking out 2 really good players.
Yeah,
not only that, 2 really good players for game week 18.
Yeah.
Arguably the 2 best choices for captaincy in the blank game week.
Even Diaby, right? Obviously, he got hooked at half-time yesterday, but that was tactical more than an injury.
Is he in your team?
Yes.
I'd be a little bit concerned about that.
Cashed Diaby and Watkins yesterday, and 2 of them got hooked at half-time.
That's probably an easiest. I thought Liam Bailey was really good when he came on yesterday.
But again, one eye on game week 18, because I'm thinking, well, Villa have got a good fixture. I don't want to move anyone that I might want to keep for game week 18, but it's still 4 weeks away, and I've only got 3 City players, and one of them is going to go in Foden, so before game week 18. So I can move around with the fringes.
Your solution here, if you really want Salah, is probably Son to Salah and then downgrade Foden. Is probably your solution, right?
But I don't know if I want to move Foden on yet, because I think they're going to terrorise you next week.
I get that, but then if you go right down on Foden to say Souček, then you might be able to go from like Diaby to Saka. But you're leaving it quite late, right? Arsenal got 2 more really good fixtures, then 3 really tough ones. Now Saka you could look at and go, well, it's just a consistent animal. I'm not worried about the fixtures. I just want to get him in. But just to point something out on him, Suj.
Who's Saka?
Yeah, because obviously I own. But I tell you what, looking at his XG over the last 6, his XG since he came back into the team after he missed the Manchester City game, he's posted 0.17 XG, according to what's on the official site. Now, I feel like it should be a bit more than that, but there's 3 games there. It's from 5 games. There's 3 games with an XG of 0. Now, the XA is not off the charts, right? He's looking at around about 1.30, roughly. Or 1.3, over the 5 games. So the underlying data is suggesting if he don't improve, these returns will stop coming. So I wouldn't be that desperate to go there if I wasn't on at the moment. Not that I'm particularly thinking of selling, it's worth saying either. Martinelli would be a far bigger on the chopping block for me. One interesting thing for you, Suj, I was looking at as well, your squad value is 1.5 less than mine.
Wow.
So when you're...
Remember, I've wildcarded.
Well, yeah, I get that.
And on wildcard, I lost a lot of squad value.
But then, arguably, because you've wildcarded and I haven't, you should arguably have more.
Yeah, potentially.
There's a good chance I'm going to wildcard in 18 to shove this up even more, right?
What are you up to, 1.4 or something now?
As in...
102.5 is me.
I'm on 103.8 squad value at the moment. So I would expect to be in excess of 104 once, obviously, the blank game goes.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a lot of players who are up in decent value, right? But I don't know, people like Salah, who obviously I've missed out on, for example. But that's going to make your decisions harder, right? So that's why probably a move like Souček rather than a Gordon, that's the sort of sacrifice, that 1 million difference, and go, yeah, that might be what I need to do to make up that difference in the value. Now, of course, with the value, that's not the exact difference in terms of spending, right? We're talking about the value of the squad, not necessarily your spending.
Yeah, as soon as you sell.
But you are tighter than many, I would suggest, at the moment.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Meh.
Me, transfer plans, I guess for many of us, a lot will hinge on Jarrod Bowen and his fitness going into this week. And ironically, Suj, if Bowen was to be ruled out for a while, guess who I'm probably going to buy? Cole Palmer.
Okay.
Sorry, might be boring. I might even roll it an extra week. And there's a good reason behind that. Obviously, I've got value up in Bowen. I still think he might be useful for me over the coming weeks. David Moyes did suggest on Saturday, although, Suj, can we take his words at face value?
You can't say any manager's words at face value.
Well, I think there's some you can.
Who?
Well, you know, when Roberto De Zerbi occasionally sits down on a Friday and says Evan Ferguson will start tomorrow, that's pretty good.
Yeah. But he'll also say people need to be I'm waiting on checkups and all this kind of stuff.
Now, Moyes said Bowen pretty much just missed the game, which would suggest he'll probably be okay for this weekend. The other good news is, obviously, you playing Europa on Thursday.
I was just checking it's the early kickoff against Bakatopola.
We will get some more information. Now, would he have travelled for that game anyway?
Probably, but he would have been on the bench.
Maybe not. But then they might go, right, we want to get some
We need to win that game, James.
So he may well play.
Yeah, if he needs a few minutes in his legs and they want to check him out, I think let's see. But obviously, even if he's on the bench, he's capable of playing. So,
a question for you before we start talking about games: how are you feeling about your goalkeeper?
How am I feeling about my goalkeeper? It's a weird one when you own your own goalkeeper in FPL, right? I would argue the case. Bowen's been okay, but I would argue the case that you could make a statement that he's Hammer of the Year so far.
What, Areola?
Yeah.
Despite the fact he never keeps a clean sheet.
Listen, it's not even that though, is it? How many times has he kept us in games with saves and good quality saves as well? He's not kept clean sheets, you're right, but he's made a hell of a lot of good saves for us that have got us out of difficult situations. And goals change games, right? They change the complexion of games. So in answer to your question, how do I feel about him in my FPL team? I've been pissed off with him since the live show, even before the live show. But how do I feel about him as a goalkeeper? I mean, I'm glad he's my goalkeeper because he's made a lot of good saves. Should he have the need to make some of these saves? Probably not, but is what it is. Are you asking because you're thinking of buying him, or are people thinking of selling him, or in what context?
No, I think there's a potential gift that's possibly just arrived for Gameweek 19 wildcarders specifically, I should say, but also those who might be thinking, well, I want a second goalkeeper because Turner's no longer in the Nottingham Forest team. It's to be confirmed, but those who watch City-Liverpool will have noticed Alisson clutching his hamstring in the final minutes of that game. There are reports this morning that suggest he might be out till the end of the year.
Wow.
Kelleher is 3.9.
Yeah, that is a very big gift. Like I would actually not even sell.
It's almost perfect for those who want to find just that little bit of cash at the moment.
I wouldn't. I've got Turner and Areola. I don't know if I'd sell Areola. I'd sell Turner.
If I sell Johnston, I'm putting 0.7 in the bank.
That's a lot of money for you, yeah. But in my situation, I wouldn't want Liverpool's reserve and Forest's reserve as my two goalkeepers. I'd rather keep Areola there I for think the point two.
That's why I say the wild card is in 19. Because if Alisson's out till New Year and we're wild carding ahead of Boxing Day, that's ideal, isn't it? Whereas, yeah, you wouldn't want to go. It might look great in the short. Oh, Keller, Turner, it's 8.0 for the two keepers, or 7.9, obviously, if you've had Turner at 4.0. But you are going to walk into a headache there with that. And the other thing, of course, is a lot of people, I think, will be looking at Sanchez in the next couple of weeks, and that's because of instability around Chelsea defensive players and who's going to regularly play over this period where they have the really good fixtures. You know, Badiashile suddenly came back in at the weekend. Cucurella and James are both suspended for the forthcoming game against Brighton now. It's just a one-game suspension for both. Reece James, you'd be very concerned about playing all three games between game week 18 and 20. And Chelsea are obviously trying to manage his load. Let's be honest, he's not looking himself, i.e., and that's understandable. Looks a little yard short to me. I think things like that second yellow against Gordon, Reece James at his best, that just doesn't happen. So it's possibly he was fatigued at that point. It's sort of like 70 minutes into the game. I understand that. Badiashile, Colwell, Disasai, Silva, that's a mess. The only one you know is going to play regularly is Sanchez. I think people look at that. So I think there'd be a few people looking at goalkeeper transfers at the moment. But for those who haven't wildcarded it yet and intend to in 19, if that Alisson news is correct, for me, I think walking into Fulham, Sheffield United, Palace as the next three, and then two home games. Admittedly, they're difficult games, United and Arsenal, but it's still two home games at Anfield. Yeah, I'd just be getting that done and play him until a wildcard. So that was never part of my plan. But I think that's something that will happen. That moving of the money a little bit just allow me a few different things going forward. It might allow a little jumping of Big Tasty to like Pedro Porro, for example. Things that I wouldn't have been able to do maybe. It does mean I'll probably be playing double Liverpool defence over the next few weeks. I've got Shimikas as well, and I would just go for it.
Let's do it. Let's start with Man City 1, Liverpool 1. Do you think it's fair to say that this game was a symptom of 12:30
after an international
break? Thank you, BT or Sky or whoever.
No, actually, to be fair, blame the police for this.
Okay, was it the cops?
Well, Sky wanted it as the 5. Sky would have wanted it as the Sunday 4:30, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but because City are playing the Champions League tomorrow, they obviously were going to have it as the Saturday 5:30. The police wouldn't have the game on any later than I think 3:30. They were saying, obviously because of the blackout, you can't screen it during that time, so there was no choice.
Right.
To show it was either put the game on at 12:30 or don't show the game at all.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's what we got. Could we just bin the 12:30? Do you think? I hate it. When Tottenham have a 12:30, I was like, oh, fuck off. That's generally what I think. Doesn't matter whether at home or away. I just think, sod the 12:30.
We haven't had one in a while. If we do, yeah. I'm with you.
Because you play at 2:00 every Sunday.
Every Sunday, except this week where we didn't. We played at 3:00.
That's true.
We played at actually 4:40 this week.
4:40. Oh, it's when you started playing, was it? Yeah. I think it was a bit later, maybe.
I mean, what are we taking away from this? Like.
Well, the big thing is what I've just said. And to be fair, although he's a gift, obviously that does make Liverpool weaker defensively.
Yeah.
If Alisson's not in goal, because he's one of the best shot stoppers around. Although you could maybe have a little question mark on him in terms of Haaland's goal. He probably still had it in his mind about obviously the clearance, which looked like a brilliant breakaway chance for Liverpool. Obviously, unusually his distribution lets him down. Aki slaloms past a couple of poor attempted tackles, and Haaland's first touches. Great. Look at Haaland's goal Saturday and Ollie Watkins' goal yesterday. A little lesson in terms of first touch out your body. Whereas Nunes had one in the first half and it's like too many touches and stuff. He's so much better off the cuff, isn't he? But he still had his involvements. I still think he'd be a good get. There'll be people looking at getting Nunes this week. People like me are probably going without Salah. Know the risk that's obviously coming. I think the draw was probably about right. It wasn't the City-Liverpool classic that we'd expect. I think there was also, I was reflecting watching the game thinking that perhaps in hindsight, because of the madness of what City had at Chelsea in the game before the international break, that maybe it shouldn't surprise us that it was more dour. I don't want to say dour, it's unfair, cause still top-level football, but perhaps not the City-Liverpool thriller that we've become accustomed to. Unfortunately, it's a very, very good result for Liverpool. I think what's key for them as well is they haven't really played any of the big teams yet at home. Doesn't feel like I don't think they have had played anyone at home yet near the top.
No.
And yet, if they get themselves in a position where they can win the league, you fancy them at Anfield against anybody, right?
Yeah. Always home tie with Liverpool back on.
A lot of the big away games are already out the way, right? You've still got to go to the Emirates, for example, but a lot of the really, and Old Trafford, but a lot of the big away games are out the way. And if Liverpool can get their consistency right, they'll win games at Anfield. So I think they're in a really, really good position. And to be honest, so are City, right? You know that City will pick up their head of steam when they get into the new year, and for them to be around it is fine at the moment, considering the consistency of Arsenal, Liverpool, and to be fair, we have to put Aston Villa in the conversation at the moment as well. So not a disaster for both teams. I think on Haaland, captain for me this week coming up. There's no
home fixture and against Spurs. Like I look at the three City. Alvarez, Haaland, Foden that I have. You're on 2, right?
Haaland, Alvarez, yeah.
Yeah, and Spurs at home, I think as good as you were for the first half an hour or whatever yesterday, still it's at their place, and you can be good for half an hour. They'll kick the crap out of you for the second 60 minutes after that. Luton and Palace after that, I might make the transfer off Foden all the way up because it's difficult to move him on with Spurs at home. I want to keep him. He played well yesterday.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
Saturday.
I wouldn't want to bin any City offensive assets against Tottenham. So there's no confliction for me on, oh my God, you're captain the player against your own team. No, I think I know the inevitable outcome of this. And whatever the outcome is, because by the way, we will go to Manchester City and try and beat them. Whether people think that's silly or not, it's fine. That's what we're going to try and do. And that probably leads to one thing. What is an absolute certainty is he will have chances. That is a certainty. There is no way that football game happens on Sunday and Erling Haaland doesn't have chances. And the chances are with him that he'll take them, right? So there's no debate for me on captaincy this week, although I think there are a number of good alternatives. Salah against Fulham, Boomer against Luton, the Arsenal players at home to Wolves, Watkins at Bournemouth. Like there's more good alternatives this coming week than what there was this week. That you'd have wanted the better alternatives in the week just gone, I think, rather than this one coming up. And so again, therefore, I think Haaland, Salah, whatever you're on is obviously take your pick, but it'll be Haaland for me. On Alvarez, there was obviously the news 2 minutes before deadline that he wasn't in the team was the news that broke. Now, it was too late for me to act upon it, and I think it was too late for many others to act upon it. But obviously, he did play. Jack Grealish was sick. But in terms of Alvarez, we should consider, I think the information is correct. I think the intention was that Alvarez wasn't going to play.
Yeah, I mean, he's come back from overseas.
So there could
arrest.
be that. There could be that it's down to the travel. But there could also be I wanted to play Foden at 10, Grealish left, Doku right. Might have been the idea, right? And therefore, it might be something that comes around again. If I was to make that Keller move this week, I could therefore go Alvarez to Nunes -4. But I don't think I'd do that. I don't think I'd do that. But does Alvarez play Tottenham, Villa, and then Luton? Questionable, I would say. So it's something I need to monitor. But I think he would play against Tottenham.
Burnley 1, West Ham 2. And we've already spent too long talking about this game.
Did you watch the game, Suj?
I did.
Was it good?
It was, I'll be polite, it was an average Burnley against an awful West Ham. Does that tell you everything you need to?
You had more of the ball than I thought you would.
I was
thought
surprised.
Burnley would completely dominate.
When we got to half-time, I think it was like 55-45, something like that, or it was just before half-time, 55-45. I was like, give them more of the ball. Surely, give them more of the ball. I feel
I love this idea. Just kick it to them.
Yeah, give them the ball and wait for the counter. But obviously, when you're losing Jarrod Bowen, you're losing one of your most potent weapons on the counter-attack, potentially. Danny Ings, I mean, most West Ham fans I've seen talking afterwards where we could have just left him at Burnley and said, here you go, here's a free gift with purchase. Wasn't what we need up front. He's lost his... I mean, he's never been particularly one to play on his own up front anyway. He's always been better, even when he was at Southampton, when he had Adams alongside him or whatever. Didn't provide much. West Ham just didn't do anything in the game, mate. They didn't do anything. There wasn't a single player that you stand out and say he was good or we did that well or anything. It was just...
So how did you end up winning
average. I feel for Burnley in that they're just not good enough.
Two kudos crosses, essentially?
Yeah, they're just not good enough. Look, Mobama came on. Everyone's been crying out to get the kid minutes. He got minutes. And there was just a difference between his work rate. When you've got someone that's putting the runs in and trying to get the ball and make things happen, it raises everybody else around. So obviously his run in and then poor defending from Burnley on Kudus for the second one to give him too much space to put the ball in. And Souček finishes well. But absolute smash and grab, mate. Absolute smash and grab. There's nothing good to say about West Ham's performance.
I like Mubama running away like he scored.
Well, look, you've got to take it. Try, yeah? If it was you and me, we would try, mate. We would try,
Do you know what we wouldn't try? What Garnacho did.
No, that's true. I was trying to figure out which muscles in my body I would pull trying to do that. And I think it's all of them. Probably my hammies, my back, my fucking... I'd pull parts of my body I wasn't even using trying to do that.
It's Michael Elise I feel sorry for.
But Burnley, on the other hand, like they definitely... Obviously, when Jay Rodriguez is starting up top, I was like, what is this, 2019 or something? What year are we in? There was only one player from Burnley that I thought, oh, you're all right. You'd be quite interesting. That was Kolyosho.
I knew you were going to say
Kolyosho. Yeah. He was all right. He gave Soufal a tough time. But again, I wouldn't call him all fart, no poo, but he's
young. He's a bit erratic.
He needs levelling up. Willie, I think he will. I think he'll actually be a Premier League player. But other than that, there wasn't anything from Burnley that made me feel you're going to stay up or are a threat here. They were bang average. They did really well against us, even because we played pony and we came and smashed and grabbed and took 3 points. And, yeah, ridiculous. I wouldn't be buying any West Ham assets. I mean, I say I wouldn't be buying any West Ham assets. Kudus is actually, look, he's chipping away. I meant to check before we recorded what his attacking returns are. So 2 goals, 3 assists.
Let's just say hypothetically Bowen is out for a little while. Is it just obvious just down to Kudus?
Depends, because you could go to Souček, right?
Yeah, sure.
He's the best number 10 in the league right now.
Because James Maddison is injured, yeah?
Well, he's playing number 10, Souček, in a weird sort of way. Like, the number of times he was further forward than Ings or a striker or whatever. And because he's got the players behind him in Ward-Prowse and Alvarez, he's kind of given like a free He is Marouane Fellaini, but just check. And
Fellaini is a good comparison, yeah.
He's just everywhere, but he is playing far forward, getting in the box and causing chaos. We saw it against Forest where his XG was high, right, in that game. He scored again. If you want to save money, I don't mind people that want to go down to Souček instead of Kudus, but Kudus is a sideways move as well. And 2 goals, 3 assists. He's only started 5 games as well. It's not a bad return.
I take it you think this Souček position will stick at the moment?
Yeah, he's doing well in it. He's doing well and he's effective in it. I would just like to see Mbama play a striker ahead of him.
I mean, yeah, the data of the last 2 for Souček is very good. I think it's 4 attempts again at the weekend. On top, was it 6 against Forest?
Yeah, it was a lot.
So, I might have this wrong, but I think it's 10 attempts, isn't it, over the last 2. Now, they're 2 of the weaker teams in the league, so caveat that, but there are still some good fixtures to come for West Ham, I think. And it's not a terrible run anyway.
No, I think we'll do okay against Palace.
Palace at home, is it Tottenham away?
Then Wolves, I think
Fulham, and then Manchester United at home in the blank week. And then I think maybe go to Arsenal Boxing Day-ish, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So people could dive in, particularly those I think Wildcard 19 is still very reasonable.
You're not going to play him that often. So, but if you've got someone coming off the bench, Souček's up there. If
Bowen's out for a while, and Antonio, we think is a couple of weeks maybe?
Yeah, it wasn't too long.
Could Mbama start against Palace? If Bowen's out, what's the solution here? It probably is just play him, isn't
it? We'd all play him over Danny Ings.
Okay.
But
you ain't David Moyes.
David Moyes' comments after the press conference, in the press conference after the game, was just demoralised. He's like, I don't see many 19-year-old strikers in the Premier League because it's a very tough position and we still just wanted to work on getting better. And yeah, there's just not that many 19-year-old strikers in the Premier League for a reason. Because you don't give them a chance. Do you know what I mean? Like, how old's Ferguson at Brighton? 19? 20? He's given a chance, right? If you don't give him a chance, of course there's not going to be any. So I don't have any faith in Moyes giving him a chance because I have no evidence of Moyes giving kids a chance other than the 6th game in the group stages of the Conference League, Europa League, when we've already qualified. He'll try out a team of the under-23.
So, all right, hypothetical then. Let's just run through this for a second and think about this. Let's say Bowen's out for a couple of weeks, hypothetically. If Ings then started on Thursday, would you think the boy Mbama plays on Sunday?
No, I think he'd still play Ings.
So don't go to him, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Or
unless again,
don't go to him if you need him. Probably a better way of saying it.
Third sub, sure. For
Burnley, just briefly, the team is settled, and we should say that the narrative would be a bit different here if they defended 2 crosses better in the last 10 minutes of the game, right? They possibly get this first win. Now, the problem is they've obviously lost every home game. Now, the fixture run they've had of home games has been tough and terrible, but it's still unacceptable for any team in this league to lose 6 home games. They host Sheffield United this Saturday. If they lose it, there will be big questions get asked all of a sudden, I think, because that is now absolute must-win territory for them. Otherwise, it becomes a serious psychological problem for them, I think. And the big problem with them at the bottom, they play the best football of the teams down at the bottom. Certainly, of, let's say, the bottom 4 at the moment in terms of on the eye. But they might be the weakest defensively. That's the problem. So they've got to start getting it right offensively. They're obviously unfortunate that Lyle Foster is absent at the moment. They've got to win that game against Sheffield United. I mean, if they lose to Sheffield United, they're 4 points behind Sheffield United, 5 behind Burnley, having lost every Luton, having lost every home game. And then, like I said, it becomes psychological.
7 in a row defeats is very difficult.
Massive game for them. Would you, in most cases, play a Charlie Taylor this week?
Yeah, I would.
Just because it's Sheffield United.
I think they'll beat Sheffield United.
I would be in agreement with that.
Luton 2, Palace 1. You're going to apologise to the Luton fans, James, especially the ones that are patrons that listen to the differential show.
What for?
I remember, James, you said, I am predicting, hint, a bad day for Luton because you predicted Burnley to win.
I did.
You
say,
predicted
I did say
Sheffield United
that.
to
I did
win.
say that. Yeah.
You predicted Forest to draw, did you?
No,
you didn't.
Everton to win.
Everton to
I predicted
win.
everyone to win, but
And Luton to lose. And there was a point at the end of it. I remember James saying, "I'm predicting a bad day for Luton." It went completely the opposite.
Yeah,
in
it was
that
a
Everton,
great day for Luton.
Sheffield United, and Burnley lost, and Luton ended up picking up the points against Palace. And the narrative in the media and generally is the Kenilworth Road factor of when they're at home and they've got this tight pitch, if they can get enough points at home, they might stand a chance of staying
of course,
up compared to what we have at Turf Moor.
Well, that's why,
and it's a home game and they won it.
If Burnley don't sort their home format, they won't get enough points away from home just to keep them up, right? So they've got to sort their home format.
And this was a home win for Luton, 2-1.
It's also their first as well. It's worth saying.
What, Luton?
Yeah, it's the first.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, but there's a 4-point gap now between them and Sheffield United, and it's more than a game. Like, so as soon as it's more than 3 points, you start feeling there's a bit of buffer.
Yeah, they've got a little bit of a buffer, which when they look at their fixture list, they're going to be, oh, right, thanks for that. I mean, next 3 at home is Arsenal, Man City and Newcastle, for example. So, I mean, that could conceivably be the top 3. Liverpool fans would obviously argue against
exactly,
that.
I'm going to say last
fans.
team they were
But
Luton.
then Liverpool obviously very nearly lost there themselves recently. I think it's 8 goals they've conceded in 6 home games, I think.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And do you know what I do feel different about them to Burnley and Sheffield United? I like the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper makes you feel like he's going to make big saves at important moments for them. I'm not calling him world class or anything, but the 2 goalkeepers at the other 2, I think, are concerning. Yeah. And he'll put some points on the board for them.
I did think James Trafford, when I was watching our game, he looks like 12 years old.
And I'm sure he'll prove to be a very good goalkeeper, but Jack Toner spoke about this a few times. He possibly wants taken out the firing line. Now, I think Muric might have been ill at the weekend anyway, so they couldn't have. But I'm concerned about them. You look at the goals that Sheffield United conceded at the weekend. League One, Wes is back. Good afternoon, Ben Tomo Thompson. Whereas Kaminsky makes some big saves. I like him in goal. He looks like a Premier League goalkeeper. If they went down, I think there's a few other Premier League clubs might go, that's a consistent option for us that maybe we want to look at. That could get them some points. And with them, I think they're well set up. I think the manager knows what they're doing. I think he would like to play a more expansive brand of football, but knows what he's working with. And they have balance. They've shown variety, which I keep speaking about over the last few weeks. And yet, to be honest, Suj, on a different day, they could have lost. Because Crystal Palace, I think, have had double the efforts on goal. Yep. And even if you look right at the end, was it Gay hit the post right at the end? Bloody hell, he should score really, shouldn't he? So I think this could have easily gone the other way. Palace's defending on both goals is, I was going to say unlike them, but on the first goal, they've had a long-standing issue with defending corners, which is not something we would think we'd associate with them, with people like Anderson, Gay, they're a tall team. But they have for a long time had a problem defending set pieces. The second goal was really ugly for both Anderson and Johnson. Anderson has to deal with it personally, but it also ends up in the 6-yard box, and Johnston's got to be a bit braver and a bit more decisive what he's doing. So, great ball in from who put the cross in?
Couldn't tell you. Maybe not Elise.
Get the assist up, shit, because it was a great cross. It was Brown scored, wasn't it? Whose assist was it? Ogbene's cross. Sorry,
Ogbene.
Yeah, great crossing. So. Yeah, great result for Luton, and as you said, they've got that little bit of buffer. It's worth knowing the fixture list is. Yeah, puff your cheeks and go for it.
But like you say, the home games are free hits like Man City and Arsenal. Just go for it and have a swing.
Well, I think probably more that the fantasy relevance would be. Certainly, they're making games tough there. How do you feel about Captain Saka there? Maybe in game week 15. I think that might be, if Saka has a good Saturday. I think next week people might think about, Haaland at Villa. Salah at Sheffield United would probably be the standout. Could it be rest day though? It might be. So Saka on the Tuesday, and there's every chance you might get a leak of what the Arsenal team lineup is ahead of that deadline for game week 15. Might last minute become quite popular for people. But right now I'd think Arsenal go there and win 1-0, 2-0 would be my take. City probably don't go there and smash them. I think there will be a game where they get hit like a 5 or 6. And City are probably more likely to do that than anyone.
Yep. Newcastle 4, Chelsea 1.
We should spoke about Eze's injury, obviously.
Again.
We haven't got the...
hammy, right?
No, ankle this time, we think. How it wasn't a free kick, by the way, is really weird. There's conflicting reports on him. He's a keep. if you think he's going to be back for the weekend. Otherwise, it's a sell. Obviously, brilliant goal from Michael Olise, who I said to you, I was concerned. I'm not even sure he starts because he had no pre-season. What a goal, which everyone's already forgotten about. The only thing I'd say with Palace is West Ham away, which isn't easy, especially if Eze is unavailable. Then Bournemouth at home, who have just picked up 2 really good results themselves. And then it's Liverpool, Man City. So I did think that investment in Palace was the week gone. I wouldn't go chasing that now, personally. So like Eze to Olise, you could look at it, but I'd rather look at something else, I think.
Newcastle 4, Chelsea 1. I thought Chelsea would do all right here.
Yeah, there was something.
Isak back.
There was something a bit strange with Chelsea's setup. So I think suddenly bringing Badiashile in for Newcastle away is strange, because that's nearly, in terms of playing within an atmosphere, etc., and a player like Isak, that's nearly as tough a game as you're going to have. Maybe Colwell's shoulder wasn't right. Maybe didn't want to play Thiago Silva on that side, and probably regrets he didn't want to play Thiago Silva on the right-hand side because he had a nightmare. That bit where Thiago Silva, have you seen it, Suj, where he falls over and kicks the ball backwards out for a corner? He falls over, and Anthony Gordon has a slight moment where he thinks, I'm going to help you up. He kind of leans in and he goes, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna leave you on your ass. And obviously the calamity for Joel Linton's goal. He's one of the best centre-backs I've ever seen, Thiago Silva. But he's had an absolute nightmare there.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, he's older than you.
He's not.
Oh, is he not?
No.
Okay.
Thanks for the attempt, but he's not.
He's close though.
He's close, yeah.
And I know I was thinking, like, he's not that many years younger than me.
You thinking, I've never seen James cock up like that? Is that what you're going to say?
I was just thinking, I don't think I could get fit enough to be knocking out 90 minutes in the Premier League week in, week out. So give him a bit of credit for just being there and being good.
No, he's been brilliant. He's just had a bad day.
It's going to happen now more and more where he is going to have these bad days because it unfortunately catches up with you this age.
The more interesting thing is what Chelsea did a little bit further up the pitch. So it looks like Gallagher played on the right and Palmer played as the 10 primarily. And I can't fathom out what the thinking there is, because I did a piece last week on Conor Gallagher playing the 10 position in big games and it disrupting opponents like Rodri, Bissouma. And you'd think, well, what do you want to do with Newcastle? I definitely want to disrupt Bruno Guimaraes.
Yeah.
And you'd think Gallagher's ideal for that. So I don't know what the thinking was. The thinking was I'm going to get Palmer closer to Jackson. I've not seen a lot of the game, and make Guimaraes kind of play in a deeper position. Whether they wanted to use Gallagher into press against Livramento, who's playing out of position at left back. I'm not sure what the thinking was, but I don't think it worked. That said, the first half looks like it was relatively even. But then Pochettino, by the end, is saying that's Chelsea's worst performance of the season, and it was obviously a little bit of a calamity. For obviously, they've got Brighton this week, and in a weird way, it might be to the benefit a little bit when these suspensions have turned up, because it just means that they go very narrow, I think. So Cucurella and James will both be suspended. So I would guess that Gusto might play, but they might just play Colwell and Disasai as fullbacks. Colwell left, Disasai right. We've seen them both do that during the course of this season, and they just really narrow it up massively, which might not be the worst idea to do against Brighton, particularly say if Mitoma is back available. So it might even not turn up at a bad period. On Reece James, I know most of the saying, I want to go there game week 16 and stuff. I get it. I don't think it's going to be for me. I can almost see it. You know what it is? Because their fixture run is so good, it's like, I have to get something. And I've been down this route before. And often you're just better off sticking with the guys that you know are going to be good with other teams. It's particularly game week 17 when they play Sheffield United at home that you think, I've got to go into that game with some bits. And Sanchez was always the one that was going to be part of my plans because I know he's going to get the minutes. But if that Kelleher gift is offering up, then I might even end up, and if Bowen stays fit, I might even end up in a position where I go through, for me it will just be the 3 games. I might even go in with no Chelsea. With the way it's looking. And Kunku, we'd hoped would be in the squad this weekend, wasn't. So that needs monitoring. With Reece James at the moment, I think we should tread carefully and understand that it's a Sheffield United at home. With the amount of games they've got over Christmas, is it beyond reason they go 2-0 up against Sheffield United in the first half, take him off at half time? It genuinely could be that sort of stuff.
I bought Reece James this week in the -56 because
That went well.
I thought, look, obviously...
Did you captain him as well? I saw someone captained him this week. Yeah, I've seen that.
I think Pete Reece James is one of the best players in the game because of what he can offer. And the price that he's at, or was at least when I bought him at 5.3 for that, it's like, you're not going to get a Reece James level talent at 5. When are you going to get to own him at 5.3? And I thought I'd take the risk on him. Like, he's lasting 1 week and it's fine. And just the let's call it trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder now I've got with Reece James. It's like, he's already hurt me there. I don't think I'd go back no matter what the price is, because I know that it's a problem round the corner. And if it's not him getting a red card and now he's suspended,
it's only one game.
It's going to be an injury. Or it's going to be something. With Reece James, you've always got to time it right. Like, you've got to own him at the right time, because either side of that, it can be rubbish or injured or suspended or not available or whatever. And I don't want to play the timing game with him. So I would just let it go.
And yeah, I might sit here in 10 days and buy him. That's the honest truth. But I think the one thing I would say is the key word you used when you were speaking about him there was peak.
Yeah, well, you don't get it that often. When you get it, you get 15 pointers.
No, but at the moment, he's not.
Yeah, he's not.
And I don't think and he's a wonderful player, he really is, but I don't think he's going to be anywhere near his peak for a while. And I think we should be very, very cautious of that at the moment. But people have gone, and there will be people that will still definitely... There are people who will be listening to what we're saying right now and go, I don't care, I'm going there in game week 16. And it's fine, I might even join you. But it's not peak James. No. We should understand that. For Newcastle, it's a brilliant result. Isak played, and I think we'll get a lot of attention, rightly so. Anthony Gordon's going to be really popular this week. I've spoken about the fixtures coming up, which are good. You know, it's Manchester United this week, but it's Manchester United at home. Any Newcastle home game is a relatively good fixture. Big Tasty scored.
He did.
Rooted to the bench. The legend continues. No regrets about that decision, by the way. I obviously went with Udogie and Cash in my team this week. Udogie missed the one-on-one after about 2 minutes, and if you'd have said to me Matty Cash was going to play right wing, I'd have gone, yep, thank you very much.
He got a combined score bigger than all three of my defenders. Probably same for you, no?
Got Saliba.
Yeah, so 6+.
Yeah, well, Lascelles got 7.
No, I'm saying Lascelles scored more than all three of my playing defenders combined.
The same. I think I got 1 for
7.
1 for Destiny.
I got 1 for Trippier. So 7 versus 7.
I don't regret the decision, because I thought Chelsea would score at the weekend. I'm like, well, he's shit going forward. He never scores. Well, of course he did this weekend. That's the way the game goes. There will definitely be people out there who had like Trent on the bench scored, Lascelles on the bench, Pau Torres scored. There'll be a few defensive returns sitting on people's benches this week. Shout out for Lewis Miley, who played as the right of the midfield three, acquitted himself very well by all accounts. He looks a real talent. That's a really, really good result for Newcastle. We know they've got their own injury issues at the moment. As said, Gordon's going to be really, really popular. I think he's returned in every home game, Suj. And it's another one this week. So,
yeah, he's a good shout.
Yeah, it's a reasonable price. I would have a little caveat that Barnes isn't far away, but the word was game week 16 at the earliest. So I don't think you'd be looking at a Barnes start till sort of 17, 18, maybe. Also, just bear in mind, obviously, they've got a massive Champions League game. I think that's tomorrow night. And they are still in the Carabao Cup quarterfinals as well. But Gordon, as it stands, with his youthful energy, will play the majority of these games.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what it's like for Newcastle, but it's going to be exactly the same as for West Ham. But between now and Christmas or the New Year, it's 10 games in 33 days for us. So I'm assuming it'll be 10 games in 33 days for them as well, which is a lot of football. So there will be some rotation, but then they're also walking wounded. So you got to play who you got fit, really.
I do have Lascelles busting the team this week.
Okay.
Which might be more of a Matty Cash conversation we'll come on to.
Forest, Brighton. Tried to make a game of it. Forest did well in the end. I mean, they took the lead, but then got blown away a little bit and came back towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear from Mark, obviously, on COTC tomorrow. As I said, I've already recorded with the guys last night. Mark wasn't happy, and he's not overly happy with what Forest are doing at the moment. I mean, since they've tried to be a bit more expansive since the September international break, they've won one game, and ironically that was against Villa in a game where they played very much like how we expected Forest to play last season when they had the good results. They're a little bit more open than they would like at the moment, and it probably continues. One of the interesting conversations we have on that pod is the idea that Forest might continue being a little bit more expansive and trying to play more offensive football because the league table suggests they have the luxury to do so. As long as they tick over, they're running at a point per game, right? 38 points is going to keep you up this year. Comfortably, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So as long as Forest just continue to tick, then they can continue to try and, I think, evolve and be expansive over this period. We speak about Chris Wood, because obviously with Aaron Yee's injury, he's 4.9. Mark warned that if you want him for every game over the next 5, and I've got Forest top my FDR over the next 5, them and Burnley I've got as the best 2. If you do want Wood, he did warn not to expect 5 starts over this period, but thought that he probably would play the home games. Now, with, say, Bournemouth at home in 18, that, for example, makes him pretty appealing, but Divock Origi obviously offers competition. He also speaks about the possibility of Morgan Gibbs-White playing as a false 9, and perhaps Hudson-Odoi coming back into the team as well. That's well worth a listen. For the short on probably which defensive player to gamble on, Murillo's obviously fit. He will definitely play. If people are looking for, I need to know that he's going to play, Murillo will play for Forest while he's fit. The fullback area is a little bit questionable. Blakademos is probably going to stay in goal as it stands.
What was Sangare?
Ill, so should be fine. It was a big miss for them at the weekend.
Because you're talking about like having stability in midfield. I was surprised to see him out of the team. Because I think him and Mangala give him something different.
Mark thinks that with some of the fixtures they've got coming up, they might try and move to a 4-2-3-1, which would be Sangare back in with Mangala. Gibbs-White at 10, and with Hudson-Odoi back fit, him and Elanga as the wide players, Chris Wood at the top of that. Now, if you put Wood at the top, the tip of that, you go, oh, there might be some returns there.
Yeah.
And obviously Everton at home is a decent fixture this week as well. So that's why, I'd said, I can go Son to Salah and I can go 4.9 forward. The irony with that is, though, Suj, if Jarrod Bowen's fit, I still wouldn't start him.
Right. He'd
sit on the bench for me. So if that's my conclusion, I might as well go for your Mabama or something like that, right? For Brighton, big important victory. And by the way, Brighton fans can celebrate however they want. Anything I'd add to that, though, is, and you all know I love De Zerbi. I think shake the opponent manager's hand first before you...
I think he forgot. I don't think he'd done it on purpose.
I think his head had gone a bit, hadn't it? It looked like... And do you know what? Rather than squaring up to people, then run to your fans, probably the right thing to do. But I do think as a manager, you have a responsibility to shake your opposing manager's hand first, or I'd say. But criticism of Brighton fans celebrating. Listen, they got injuries coming out their ears, right? They're all singing at the away end, like, stand up if you brought your boots and stuff, because they are crucified with injuries, and not helped by their captain having a mad one. Yeah. Which is the Sky conversation we'll probably have on Wednesday.
Well, it's a Sky conversation I've avoided, so I'm okay.
Okay,
I
fine.
didn't own.
Oh, of course you didn't. Are you lucky?
Didn't own.
Yeah, he's gone for me.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a 2-game ban, Lewis Dunk. It's 2-game ban for red cards for dissent apparently now.
Okay.
But because he got a yellow card as well, he's gone up to 4 yellows as well. So he'll get boots over this period as well, and he'll miss a big game. And obviously after he'll miss Chelsea and Brentford, then he's back for Burnley. If he gets boots against Burnley, he misses Arsenal away.
Mad.
Anyway, the point of this would be definitely avoid Brighton defensively. Don't go near it. It's still, I think it's no clean sheets this season, isn't it? Ferguson scored, went off. João Pedro comes on, scores twice. We know what the capability of these guys will be if they get the minutes and play. If you're suddenly thinking, Pedro scored twice, that's it, he's going to play every game now. Sorry, that information doesn't exist at the moment. Mitoma can't be serious because all of us saw the video of him running out for training on Thursday. So presumably he'll be back this week, and they do need bodies back because they're running really, really light. And that's why they're so passionate as they were at the end, right? They had to do something bright, very un-Brighton-like. You can see it again. And it's interesting that obviously Ange had quite a lot of criticism for the 9-man performance against Chelsea and how brave Tottenham were despite having 2 men short. Look at the possession numbers for Brighton's last 2 games, would have gone down to 10 men against Sheffield United and Forest, respectively, and how madly it flips. They went behind the ball and did something very un-Brighton-like without their captain and got through it, got the points, and good for them. They have every right to celebrate. But Roberto, be a bit nicer to people if you want a big job, right?
Sheffield United 1, Bournemouth 3.
Oh, catastrophe.
XG of 2.86 for Bournemouth as well.
I think Bournemouth, I don't know if that changed.
23 shots.
Oh, okay, 23 is big. Yeah.
11 on target.
I think they've had the most shots the last 2 game weeks, Bournemouth, I think.
3 wins out of 4 big chances.
Yeah, really good.
I mean, stats-wise, yeah, they've turned it around. They've turned the corner. They are now kind of built up that little bit of buffer.
Do you know what? We said
7 points.
Go back 4 or 5 weeks, and we said now's the time to judge them because now the fixtures are good. Mm-hmm. And when we can judge them now and sit there and go, yep, they'll be all right.
Yep, agreed. Sheffield United, they've got no interest in from an FPL point of view at all.
Oh my God, are you mad? Mind you, George Baldock is now returning consecutive home games for those who are on, and there will be a few would have played him this week and have got a nice little 5-point return out of that. You can be delighted with it.
But I've come off a bench for a couple as well.
I'm sorry, they are the weakest team by a mile, Sheffield United.
In the league, yeah.
By a lot. I don't care that they're not bottom. They are the weakest by a long way. I couldn't believe that McBurney didn't play. Now, obviously, I'm not part of Sheffield United's medical room or know what his status was, and maybe there was no way he could get through 90 minutes, and they decided they'd rather use him later in the game. And the way they played in the first half and how passive they were would suggest maybe that's what they were trying to do. They have got no outlet, no link at all if he does not play. I speak about this every time he doesn't play for them. They are useless. And he's not going to score the goals, even though he does come on and score at the weekend. You know, he'll finish the season. If he
consolation goal.
If he played every game, he'd get no more than like 5 or 6 goals across the season. But he will tie the team together and get them up the pitch. He's a battering ram that they can use.
Dominic Solanke.
They might. The problem they've got, I keep thinking, and I tweeted this on Saturday, and Tomo's running commentary. He did say sack him for Heckingbottom, and I don't think that opinion would be shared by all Sheffield United fans. But I listen. The boos were very audible in the stadium at the weekend. Once fans are turned, it becomes problematic. Now, if you're in that position in the league and you don't have 100% backing, like the kind of Everton together or the Luton togetherness at the moment, if Sheffield United haven't even got that, bang to rights, okay? So if they lose at Burnley, I wonder if they might change. But the problem is the fixtures come so thick and fast after that. Like it's not an ideal to be appointing a new manager in, when you're playing every 3-4 days over December and stuff. That's not great. So they might stick with it. Someone's going to lose their job soon, though. We've still got no one. For Bournemouth, Marcus Tavernier, I think he had 6 shots at the weekend.
1.22 XG.
Good return. The problem is he's just a little too pricey for what we'd want, I think.
Yeah, not at 5.4 for me. If he was 5, he's in the conversation with some of them.
Do you know what? He hasn't returned for
10 games before that.
There's nothing wrong with that price. It's just... It's more than Palmer. It's more than Souček. It's not that much more for Gordon. Like, it's difficult call to go there, and I think some of the fixtures begin to get a little bit more difficult for them coming up. They have a couple of good home games coming up.
Luton, Forest, Fulham after that, but then Spurs, Liverpool, West Ham. So it's a dip in, dip out, really. If you were dead ending into 18 and you wanted to get him next week for Palace, Luton, Forest, and Man United can be hit or miss. Actually, they're the most informed team in the league. Sorry.
The other problem with him, unfortunately, he's injury prone. Unfortunately, but he will get returns. We saw that when we played last year. Their record with and without him was very noticeable last year. I think Justin Kluivert is well worth keeping an eye on now. He obviously scores off Fodringham's ridiculous mistake. By the way, if you see that goal back again, don't watch the goal. Watch Dominic Solanke nearly getting a fight about 20 yards deeper, which should be notable for those who went and bought him this week. And you're mad unlucky you've got no returns out of that. Stick with Dominic Solanke. He's like Watkins light. He'll tick over, but don't worry so much about the fixtures. He's playing in the 10 role, which is very much kind of second striker role now. And that goal might give a bit of confidence. Because they've done well in his last 2 and he's played that position, that might be that this sticks now. Well, you've got Tavernier playing left, alternating with Semenyo, and they do flip between left and right during the course of the game. And Kluivert off Solanke. Now, Kluivert is
his
what,
price
4.8?
Is 4.6.
4.6. Yeah, that's really not a bad one. If people are really tight on the money and need to go to that level, that's not a bad punt at all on Kluivert. Defensively, I would still be avoiding personally.
Let's talk about Brentford 0, Arsenal 1. I don't know. I can only describe.
Did you watch
it? I only saw the highlights on this.
What highlights?
As I was
two clearances off the line from Brentford and Havertz scored.
I would describe this as just professional. Like, got the job done and fucking left.
Yeah, and do you know what? Credit to them, right?
That's literally it. I felt like even looking at what happened in our game, Arsenal will feel very similar to how we felt at the end. We've got the points and we've left, and I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, listen, anybody who goes to Brentford and wins is going to leave there really happy this year. Yeah. That's a good result. Easily could have been 1-0 the other way around.
Yeah.
Ramsdale's obviously made the complete hash of it in the first half. Deserves credit for getting himself focused and obviously ending up with the clean sheet. Declan Rice gets on the line. There was the Maupay header in the second half, which I forget who cleared that one. Was it Zinchenko? Was it off the line? Other than that, the game wasn't blessed with big
international
moments.
Break hangover, mate. No,
and to be honest, I'm watching the game, and I'm watching it with a Tottenham hat on, obviously, so you know the result that I want. But I must say, I'm watching Arsenal, I think, are you going to try and win this at some point? You never got the vibe from them that was any urgency or anything. And Clayton speaks a lot, and he tweeted it again after the game. It was like, been boring again. And it wasn't a great watch for the neutral. That said, it's obviously helping them defensively. And if they're not going to concede many goals, then 1 or 2 is all they're going to need to win a lot of games. So it's not even a criticism, right? Arsenal top the league, okay? But primarily because of their defensive performance rather than their offensive performance. I think they're about 7th for XG. I think it's not where we'd expect them to be. That said, they scored a goal with a goal which is what they work on. Anybody who watched Arsenal's pre-season goals will know they saw that goal twice in pre-season. Both scored by Havertz. And it's good for him that he's obviously come up with that big key moment. When
his first open play goal for him.
The first time I thought Arsenal were trying to win this was about the 87th minute. Like suddenly the tempo went up and it was like a little bit of urgency came in. And you know what? That urgency might have come quicker or earlier in the game and they might have got counted on or whatever. But it's not like, as much as we're praising the defensive work, it's not like Brentford didn't have chances. And Arsenal had chances as well. I know like the Trossard disallowed goal is so marginal in terms of offside and stuff. But on different days, Arsenal might not score here, is worth saying. But it's a great result, and I don't think it's not one that will live in the memory. It's a little bit like what I said when I went to Palace, right? Go there, win, leave. Brentford's the same. Like so I'm not meaning to be critical, but we should be aware of this with Arsenal. And I don't think it's steam in, personally. I think if you're not on, I think it's leave. And I think one of the reasons for that is the close proximity of these Wolves and Luton games. So they've got Seville Wednesday, Wolves Saturday, Luton Tuesday. I certainly wouldn't be making early transfers. And for someone like me who has Martinelli, if Martinelli plays like 90 minutes against Seville, I think there's concern for me there. Wolves, Luton. The concern's not the same with Saka, right? We know that. He'll play him as long as he's got one leg functioning, basically. But I probably wouldn't be diving in. And I know a lot are looking double defensive at the moment, and I get that because at the moment they're the best defence in the league. But once you get beyond the next 2 and you look at Villa away, Brighton at home, Brighton scoring every game, and then Liverpool away, like, do you want to look at your double defence for that? Now then, after that, their fixtures from 19 onwards are good again. So for me on Wildcard, yeah, there's every chance of double defence.
Cool. Let's talk about the Sunday games because we must. Nice day out. Spurs 1, Villa 2.
Nice day out. The temperature's plummeted quite a bit. Congratulations to our Villa followers, listeners, viewers for winning. It was a game.
Making it into the top 4 because I think that's quite a big deal for them.
Yeah, and I know it's interesting. I keep hearing Villa say, "Well, you're talking about a top 3." No, listen. Let other people talk about a top 3, and you quietly go about your business doing really well. It's 22 league wins this calendar year. with a month to go. Like, that's amazing. Unai Emery has done an absolutely phenomenal job. The game could have gone either way. There's no doubt about that. The game hinged very much on the Bentancur injury by a player called Matty. And I want to talk about this, right? Because I did check on his Wikipedia. His name is Matthew.
Okay.
Right. So what, like, adult is generally going Matty?
Well, here's the thing. I watched the West Ham game on an Australian channel. Pretty sure it was an Australian channel. And Matt Ryan was on there.
Oh, Matty Ryan, yeah.
It was advertising like some skin
Ryan.
cream or some
that?
shaving cream or something like that.
that?
You know, doing these agile fucking saves. Actually, he wasn't. He was advertising some sort of sports vest or something that shows your movement or something. Anyway, it came up as Matty Ryan. But when we'd spell Matty, like Matty Cash, double T, right?
Yeah.
Matty Ryan was Maty.
Okay,
Ryan.
one T.
Yes. So, does that help your argument or case or discussion or debate? I don't know, James.
Sorry, I'm not happy with Matty. And most FPL managers are not at the moment either. Expendable, yes, possibly. Avoided a price drop last night. It may be coming. I'm probably going to stick it out for the moment. I'm 0.2 up on him, and you could say, yep, expendable. The reason I think it's expendable as well now, he's obviously up to 4 yellows. You know when the suspension's coming, right?
Yeah.
Game week 18. But also, he might not start at Bournemouth. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The main one being, I think, the performance of Leon Bailey. I thought it was fantastic. And to be honest, I know Emery basically had to get cash off the pitch, but he didn't have to put Bailey there. He could have just put Tielemans on, put Tielemans to the left as they'd done in the previous game, moved John McGinn back to the right-hand side. That would have been the obvious thing to do. But putting Bailey there, what it did was it made Destiny Udogie think twice about what he was doing offensively. And he was fatigued and he was knackered. The whole team was fatigued and knackered, by the way. And I thought Bailey was really good. You know, he has that vibe. Maybe because I sit on that side. When he steps inside on his left foot, you do think, oh, he's capable. Like, so Bailey's one I think is definitely not buy, but he's one really to keep an eye on, I think, in the next couple of weeks. All of a sudden, the RB was pretty quiet. But then, largely from open play sources in the first half, Villa were quite quiet. To be honest, Suj, in the first half hour, I thought we were brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well, is that you played really well, had a lot of good
chances.
chances. Could have been 3-0 up before they even had a shot on goal.
That wouldn't be... to be fair, it could have been 2-2 after 5 minutes. Villa had their chances during that period as well, but their best ones were still primarily from set pieces or crosses rather than playing through us. And
you edged it on XG.
You couldn't look at Villa... This is what's interesting. You couldn't look at Villa in the opening half hour and think... You couldn't say they'd been overwhelmed or played badly at all. Just to think my team was playing very well, primarily because the best player on the pitch by a mile was Rodrigo Bentancur. He came in, he played the Basuma position, and he was playing fantastic, and he was aided very well by Giovanni Lo Celso, who was dropping into deep positions, and Kulusevski played a position that's more akin to how Odegaard plays for Arsenal. So Maddison plays as left half space. Kulusevski played it as the right, with Lo Celso dropping deeper. Remember, obviously, we lost Pap Sarr as well to injury, with Basuma being suspended. So Bentancur was playing great. Then he gets injured and the game changes. Do I think we'd have won if Bentancur stays on the pitch? It's the same argument that Arsenal fans would give when Declan Rice got injured against my team in game week 6, that they probably would have gone on one. So these things happen to all teams, but it did change the narrative of the game. And Villa created chances throughout, some very good ones in the second half. Watkins could have got more than the one goal that he got. I turned to my dad with 25 minutes ago. I said, we're out on our fate. They had, other than Kulusevski, and none of them had anything left in the tank. And there wasn't anything on the bench to change it. So it's not a complaint. We're working with what we've got.
Will come back in for Bentancur against City.
Well, Bentancur's presumably he's injured now as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm assuming he's not going to be fit.
I don't know the Pap Sarr situation, but we think he was probably close. I
don't think you can buy Spurs at all right now, can you?
We've got Man City away. Of course you're not going to buy.
And what about those thinking of selling Son?
So Sonny is narrative, right? So he had 3 goals scored that were all offside, and other than I think the one that comes off the post, they're all comfortably offside. Johnson was comfortably offside for the second one. He's well offside on the first one. On the first one, by the way, watch it back. And when we talk about key players missing, it's what happens in your mind very quickly. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg takes a touch that he doesn't need to take. He just needs to play the ball through. And if he plays it first time, then Son is away and he's through and he scores and he'll be onside. Because he takes that extra touch, Son thinks he's going to go and he's already off. Højbjerg takes an extra touch, he doesn't. And that's the difference at elite level, because unfortunately he's an average footballer, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And again, he didn't play badly when he came on, but it's no Bentancur, right? Bentancur plays that pass first time. Lo Celso, any other player near enough, plays that pass first time and he would be onside. I know a lot's made of Villa's offside trap, and it's the same narrative that Liverpool get, right? When it works, people praise it. When it doesn't, people slam it. But they're very brave, and I admire the bravery that they have in it, and most of the time it works very well for them. With Son, again, it's narratives. Do you go, oh, well, he's put the ball in the net 3 times and he's had several near misses. He had another one which Johnson was offside for, another one which was a bit behind him and he put over. I think he created a couple of chances himself. All I could tell you, honestly, watching the game was that I didn't think he played well. I thought, to be honest, he was probably our poorest player from the starting team during the course of the game. I didn't think he was particularly at it. I think he looked fatigued. I think a lot of his energy was spent off the ball rather than on it. He looked tired to me. No, it doesn't matter, right? We don't play for a week, and Manchester City is still a fixture that could suit him, right? You know, there can be, if you get the passing right, and it doesn't need us to have the right personnel on the pitch, if you can get the passing right and get him away, then you know the capability. And the fact he's put the ball in the net 3 times told you what you know, right? He's a great finisher. So I think you can spin that narrative either way. As it stands for me, if Bowen's fit, I'm bench him this week.
Son. Okay. And
but with what I've got, Saka, Martinelli, Bowen, who's my other midfielder, Suj, that I've got?
Mitoma? Or you sold it? No, Mbomo.
Oh, Bumo, yeah.
Bumo, sorry.
Right, so they all play.
Correct.
Alvarez, Haaland, Watkins.
Yeah.
I would bench Son at Man City. Now, I don't advise most others do that. If you want to sell, I get it. What I'd say is, like, consider that -4 I'd said about buying Salah would. So to get Salah in, yep, get Salah. But I also spoke about 18. And they're probably the 2 best captaincies in that week is Watkins and Son. And consider that. Also, consider that I don't think there's anyone else in the Tottenham team at the moment that I trust enough to get goals regularly enough. Do Tottenham have a good day? Son will probably have a good day. Johnson is so far off it in terms of fitness. Miles off. Absolutely miles off fitness. It becomes really obvious really quickly in second half of games. Brian Hill I spoke about a lot, like tries hard, good technically. He's too weak for this level. He'll never be strong enough for it. Lo Celso did fine. I'd called for him to be in the team. I hope he stays in the team. He's obviously a little bit fortuitous with the goal in the sense it takes the deflection. And I do think he should be monitored because he's a really cheap price as well. But I probably would rather punt something like Kluivert if I was to do so at the moment, actually. So with Sonny, I think it depends what you want to do with it, right? Know that he'll score goals and know that there's an unpredictable nature about when those goals will come. If he gets created chances, he'll score goals. And he doesn't, you've seen that yesterday. He doesn't need Maddison for him necessarily to get the chances. I really enjoyed the way Tottenham played yesterday, and I think it very easily could have gone the other way. But full credit to Villa, they're on a great run.
Indeed. Let's wrap up with the last game. I thought Everton might do better here, but in the end have lost 3-0 to Manchester United.
That goal would knock the stuffing out of anybody.
Yeah, but it still only counts for 1.
But it's the manner of it. It's the manner of it. You go there with all that expectation. We're going to tell everyone the Premier League's corrupt. We've got our pink flyers. Strange seeing Goodison look anything other than blue at certain stages of the game. They're right up for it. They want to make noise. And the first time the opposition comes forward, this geezer scores one of the best goals you've ever seen in your life. That is staggering. If you dreamed of scoring an overhead kick as a kid, that's how you dream it.
Yeah.
That is a madness.
They went on to have 24 shots, mate. XG is decent for them in the end. It's nearly
this is a repetitive theme of a lot of Everton.
A lot of people keep asking, Everton the unluckiest team in the league, maybe, in terms of, are they the new Brighton? They're not the new Brighton from a style of football, like mate, but in terms of XG versus actual goals, are they falling into this trap of where they're so far behind?
Look,
and they've ended up obviously, second half, Manchester United have extended
what was their XG in the game? Was it over 2?
2.47,
What was the first half XG?
I will tell you, James. 1.43.
Yeah.
And 1 in the second half. Whereas Manchester United's XG in the first half, James, considering Garnacho's Superman.
Did it have an XG?
I don't know if
know what Garnacho's was.
I will find out for you.
Must have broke XG. Must have broke it.
Well, their total XG was 0.09 in the first half.
Yeah, Garnacho's. It's not even a 0.01.
Garnacho's. If I click on Garnacho in SofaScore, sometimes it shows.
But he had enough effort in the game in the second half, so I wouldn't do that.
Okay, sometimes it shows you shot map. Here we go. That shot, James, had an XG of 0.08. So it made up the bulk of...
Who's providing XG for SofaScore? Get out of your life.
0.08.
Get out of your life.
He had 8% chance of scoring that when he leapt in the air.
Stop it.
8% chance of scoring, mate.
Stop it. That's absurd. It's not even 0.01. He has to walk backwards to get the ball as well. He's not even standing still. He's literally walking away from goal to go and get it. It's
Garnacho.
That is... It's certainly in debate for greatest Premier League goal of all time. It's definitely up there. That's a madness. It was one of them where you get the involuntary noises. If you're a neutral, you're watching that. Maybe even if you weren't a neutral, you go, whoa. Like it was one for the Gary Neville. Ooh, it needed it. What a goal. He's cheap in FPL, by the way. He's 4.7. So it's another one you could put in that bracket if he's going to play regularly enough, which would be questionable on Højlund's return and Anthony's. I think probably more Anthony's, probably an impact of that. For Everton, they had to score in the big period they had at the end of the first half. Calvert-Lewin, Decore, a few others really guilty. United weren't at it. For the second half of the first half, United just were not at it at all. And they got away with that period of the game. So Everton will play worse and get points this season. And and obviously on COTCs tomorrow, we talk about, Everton, the fact that quite clearly, although I think most of us still think they'll get out of it, quite clearly they're obviously in the battle. Of course they are. They're on 4 points at the moment, and they may get a couple of them back. And what's the only important thing for me for Everton over the coming months will be keeping their players fit. Keep the players fit, they'll get enough results, in my opinion. For United, great result. They were the form team in the league. They finally beat someone by more than a goal. And although we could say, there was a period where they were a little bit lucky in the end of the first half, let's be honest, we've just said with Arsenal, you go to these places, you win, you leave. And a lot of people thought United would get turned over this weekend, right? I think we both did, Suj. So they've come out there with a really good result. Clean sheet, perhaps a little bit fortuitous to get it. But they've taken their moments really well. I think the penalty is questionable, by the way. I think sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. Although I wouldn't have called it a dive either. The third goal's really good. Martial's like Morpay against you. He only seems to score against Everton as well. It's one of them records. Shout out for Kobe Mino, who was United's best player by a long, long way. And I do think this is a key thing for United because I've been screaming nearly every week on this pod about the problems they have when they get attacked centrally. He's a young boy. There's a lot of pressure on him, but he moves around the pitch very gracefully. He's calm on the ball. He can tackle clearly as well. He looks mature beyond his years, and I think he may well stay in the team for United. And I think it would be a big, big positive for them if he did so. Is he going to play every game? He's an 18-year-old boy. But the fact he's been picked for this, when they knew the hostile environment he'd be walking into, you're going to have to deal with some direct balls coming into you and things like that. Yeah, he was calm as. So he's obviously jumped ahead of Amrabat, I would say, in the pecking order. Ten Hag's obviously looked at him and gone, I don't fancy you. And Casemiro, we think, is going to be out till January or so. So this lad's probably going to play quite a bit. And I don't think in the short term, but I think in the long term, he might solve what Ten Hag wants. And I think Ten Hag wants to play 4-1-4-1. And he would be the one between the two fours. And that's a big... To play that, you've got to be a bit like Declan Rice. I'm not comparing that in terms of quality, but he's an 18-year-old boy who might be United's best option at the moment. He was really, really good, Suj. And Harry Maguire, I know people don't want to hear it, was very good again. But would I invest in Manchester United for FPL? Not going to Newcastle this weekend. No, thank you.
They've won quite a few games, but then recently you're looking back at who they beat, right? And it's Sheffield United.
You've still got to beat them. You've still got to beat
Luton, Everton. You do still got to beat them, and they have. But they've kind of been going along. 3-0 is a better margin.
What have we played? 13 games.
Yes.
They've played, I think if you look, Suj, at the table as it stands at the moment, they've played 9 of the bottom 10 far. They've won 8 and lost to Palace. They've played 4 teams in the top half, lost all 4.
Right. They've lost 5 games in total. So the other
So they've still not played from the top half. They've obviously lost to City. They've not played Arsenal. They've not played... Have they played Arsenal? Yes, They lost at the Emirates. Lost at the Emirates. They lost to City. They haven't played Liverpool.
Villa's coming up, isn't it?
Villa they've got over New Year's, I think. They lost at Tottenham. They lost at home to Brighton. They haven't played you yet. They haven't played Newcastle yet. They haven't played Chelsea yet.
Yeah, so now it's going to get quite a bit tougher for them.
Let's see. What I would say is, if you show consistency of beating the shit in this league, I always think if you beat the bottom 10, home and away, what's that, 60 points?
Yeah.
You're in contention for top 4.
Yeah.
If you just beat the shit. If you could do that, now obviously they've lost at home to Palace, but if you could win all those games, that in itself puts you on 60 points, probably gets you near European qualification. Then from the Champions League, you only need to win another 4 or 5 games.
It is funny because I did look at the table after the weekend and we're on 20 points. We got Palace at home. We could beat Palace. That puts us up to 23 points. Newcastle on 23. They've got Man United at the weekend. You're on 26. You've got Man City. So we're 3 points behind you. Considering the start of the season you've had and the start of the season we've had, to be only 3 points behind you doesn't make logical sense in my head.
Or you could flip it another way and go, Tottenham have lost 3 in a row and they're still on 2 points per game.
Yeah.
So you can, and it will almost definitely be 4 in a row, by the way.
Ultimately, it's as tight as it's been for a while, particularly title race and even below that. It can all shuffle around in a few weeks. The teams that we thought would be in the top half are in the top half, just not necessarily in that order is what I would say. And there's a
long way to go.
Around.
We're basically a third through this, right? It was a very, very long way to go. I mean, some of us, like, I know Villa fans want to be part of the conversation. Don't even look at the league table. If you want Champions League football, just keep sticking. You keep your head above 2 points per game, you'll get there, right? My team's going to dip below that. That's obvious, right? Because we're not winning at City at the weekend. So we'll dip below that, and we're gonna drop behind one of Newcastle, Manchester United, almost definitely, right? Because they're playing each other. And presume my guess is that would be Newcastle, by the way. But there's certain teams up there at the moment that won't have the pressure, I think, of the league table in the way United will have pressure. I think Manchester United do. Newcastle do a little bit. The top 3 do. I think Villa, Tottenham. There's not so much pressure on the league table at the moment.
Cool, James. Do you want to tell the listeners what they've got to look forward to the rest of the week? I had a cheeky look at the questions on X, James.
No,
like Matt Cash replacements.
Someone called Matthew.
There isn't
tonight, Matthew. I'm gonna be Matty Cash.
Okay, if you were buying now, let me ask one question that's in there. If you were buying now, Isak or Nunez?
I think because the 3 fixtures Liverpool are about to walk into, I would gamble that.
Okay.
And I would chain that onto Isak in Gameweek 17. Nice. Possibly.
Cool. So what do we have to look forward to for the rest of this week, James, in terms of content coming at you?
There's 2 COTCs. Forest Everton tomorrow, as said, with Mark and Sean. Thursday, West Ham versus Palace with Chris and Rory. You'll be with me for the Sky Pod Wednesday.
Yep.
I'll be streaming Friday afternoon. Our Patreon podcast this week are Q&A Monday. Tomorrow, Clayton's with me for the UCL Fantasy Preview. Tottenham Wednesday. Thursday, James Johnson, one of our patrons, joining me for Money in Football in a conversation on Internazionale or Inter Milan. If someone can get Jamie Carragher to say it properly. And Friday will be the differential show, Game Week 14 preview. Throughout December, all of the podcasts will be available for basic plus tier patrons and above, and all the regular advanced tier content will be available for intermediate plus tier patrons as well.
Yes, so if you want to support the show, why don't you head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL.
To be honest, because we're giving away Thursday's content, which technically is the 30th, it basically starts Thursday.
Nice. Why don't you head over there? All of the tiers are available to see. We've got a Slack community. We've got prize leagues and a bunch of other stuff as well, including that additional content. We'd love to have you as part of our
If you want to
Patreon
buy
community.
us a Christmas present, right, go
Join
to
Patreon.
patreon.com/planetfpl. Thanks.
Lovely jubbly. And that's it, James. Nothing else to wrap?
No more cues. They're generally shit, yeah?
Honestly, they are
Fine.
all very...
I'll cover
FPL.
them. I'll cover them for the advanced tier patrons later.
They're all covered. It's all
is it?
FPL, as in who should I
There's
buy to
nothing we
replace. No one sent any
Fine.
food-related questions,
Ooh.
fashion-related questions,
Fashion?
life-related questions. Nothing. Listeners, stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please. Man-child. Blimey, 125.
You could do that. You could do it as a 5 minutes added on.
What, the unanswered? Great.
It's that bad.